Next one is return on the investment. We all get paid a salary, and I tell my team this quite often, is that when you look at what you're being compensated and what you're bringing into the company, you need to demonstrate your return on their investment. The company is bringing you in because you're an expert, because they feel that you're going to add value, right? So how do you constantly demonstrate to yourself and to the company what exactly you are actually delivering in terms of your return on investment? And that's just one part of what that means. The other part of return on investment is that the customers want to know what the return on the investment is. So they've just bought a piece of Brocade's hardware, right? They want to know, what's my return on the investment? Why did I just spend $100,000? And so no matter what you're selling in your career or what role you're going to be playing, it's really important to demonstrate that to your customer what the return on the investment is. And this is where training comes in so nicely, right? Because once you know how to use the product, you are constantly validating your return on the investment. So that's how I have taken my role and tied it into the corporate strategy and tied it into the company's, what's important to the company. So I'm going to continue to show what our organization brings in terms of that. So the key takeaway here is that it's one team, one goal. So when you're working for a small company, whether it's your own company or it's a large corporation, if you look at it as you're all one team, you all have the same goal, which is the strategy. And knowing that strategy is really, really, really important. So please think about that if you were to go work for IBM tomorrow. Think to yourself, wow, IBM, they're so big. I mean, their strategy is huge. But when you break it down, it can really make a real difference in how you're perceived in the company and the success that you have. Hey, here's another one. This is a real challenge, actually, and my team, my staff is challenged with this quite frequently, and that is success metrics, right? The first thing is how do you define success, right? So when you think about what you're doing in your life and in your career, how do you stand back and say, how do I define success? What does success look like, taste like, feel like? And then how do you begin to actually document that and really make those metrics come alive? And so that's what I want you to think about is when you figure out what success looks like, start figuring out how to measure it. How do you measure success? Okay? And let me just give you an example. In my organization, we teach about 27,000 students a year, right? And so what I need to do is I need to figure out how I'm going to communicate up, sideways, and down inside Brocade about what success looks like for my organization. Clearly, customer satisfaction is huge. So the first thing I said is, okay, how do I measure customer sat? Well, we have evaluation forms that we have filled out after every class, right? I get that, and I start reporting on that. And then I start looking at, okay, the number of people we touch every year is pretty important. The CEO of the company, I had a meeting with him and I shared with him that we're training 27,000 people a year. The next day he was out there parroting that. That made, I just wanted to have a happy dance, right? Because that is what I am exactly trying to accomplish, is that I want the CEO and everybody in this company to know what value we bring to the table and what does it mean for the customer, okay? So think that through. The other one is to validate it, okay? So this company, it's a $2 billion company. We've got 5,000 employees here at Brocade. And so I think to myself, okay, I can define success. I can put the metrics together. But is that really important to everybody that cross-functionally? When you look at the finance department, the sales department, the marketing department. So what I did when I first got here, and again, I've only been here 6 months, but my mission the first 6 months was to get in front of every executive that was responsible for the IT organization, finance, sales, etc. And I got together with them and I said, what does education mean to you? what can my organization do to help you be successful? And that's why this is really important, is to make sure you assign, oh my, that you actually align yourself with the organization, and then you go to them and you validate that. And I'll tell you, it's really different. You walk away with a different feeling. The sales organization told me that, you know, Roz, what's really important to me is that I want you to help me figure out how we can differentiate ourselves out in the industry. How can your training organization do that? Well, the one way we could do that is certification. The more people who are certified on our products, that is a way that we can differentiate ourselves. So again, I'm trying to figure out what this organization has to offer, and why is that important to the sales organization, right? And the other thing that was really cool is that I said to the, his name is Ian Whiting, I said, one thing that education can do for you is that an educated customer is going to buy more product. An educated customer is going to buy more product. His eyes got big, right? So again, this is what really you've got to figure out what you're doing and how it ties in, what's in it for them. And so now, whenever I have a success story, if a customer sends me an email or something and they said, because of that class, I just bought your product. What do you think the first thing I do? Forward it. Up it goes, up to the executives. They know that happened, and I communicate it, because that's what they need to know, that we're adding value. And so that is really important. So the other part about this, you know, the whole thing about being having success metrics, when you have metrics, you now have a way to measure your success, right? And so one thing that really happens is that results speak for themselves. I can go around and tell the executives until I'm blue in the face how great training is or the value that we bring, but they want to see results. And that's why once you figure out, you define your metrics, and you start to validate them with all the people that you need to validate them with, then you start executing, and people are starting to see now, okay, I see now that, you know, education is adding value. We did make that sale because of education, right? So that's, you know, the results is at the end of the day what people are looking for, okay? But if you don't define them and you don't communicate them, they're not going to know, right? So communication, this is the one thing, I say this all the time, communication is key. Communication is key. And so what we need to be thinking about is how do we find mechanisms in our environment to communicate? Is it a newsletter? Is it, you know, something that, you know, is on a website? Is it a dashboard that you create? So one of the things I'm doing is creating executive dashboards now. And I'm going to be able to go to each of the executives and say, look, if you want to know anything about education, here is your dashboard. So you want to look at how many people were trained on this product in this location, they will be able to get a view of that. So trying to find ways that you can actually promote and report what you're doing is, you know, you can do all of this, but if you don't do this, no one's going to know what you're doing, right? Okay. All right, so I'm leaving this thought, metrics do matter. And so when you think about everything you're doing, how do you measure it? And I think less is more. The less that you put up there and you deliver on, and that you can actually see the results, the better. Trying to boil the ocean and trying to get everything done, you know, you're going to be all over the place, and execution is going to be a lot more challenging. So when you're thinking about what is success all about and how do you measure that, if you have 1 to 3 things that you can actually say that you want to be, that means success to you, make sure that you're able to measure it, okay? All right, so cross-functional alignment. Oh, I heard this many, many years ago, and I'm just, you know, not now, but it's taken me, I'd say about 15 years ago, the light bulb went off for me, what this really means. so when you're thinking about cross-functional alignment, you gotta think about who are the stakeholders. Who is gonna use your product, your service? Who really cares about what exactly you're doing? And who is gonna benefit or who's gonna use it, okay? So with education, you can imagine within Brocade, a lot of people care about education because the employees need education, right? So that they can learn products and be able to do their job. So I've got a lot of stakeholders. And so when I stand back and I'm doing my business plan for my organization, I'm saying, okay, who are my major stakeholders? And those people are people that I interact with a lot. And I find excuses to meet with them, right? I just find a reason to meet with them. And what I asked them when I first got here is I met with the CEO on down and I said, can I meet with you every quarter? Every 3 months, can I meet with you? And I want to share with you, you know, what we're doing and how what we're doing impacts you. And so you kind of get that commitment right up front that you're going to have a dialogue every quarter, okay? And so when you figure out who those stakeholders are, you know, just make commitment to put some structure in there. Otherwise, you're going to get busy in your job, and it's just going to, you're going to lose sight of it, and you're going to, you know, forget what you're doing and the impact. The other is what's in it for them. Them personally, professionally, for their organization. If you think about that, it really does make a difference. And when you walk out of that meeting and you say to yourself, what's in it for them, you've got to ask the question. You've got to be really out there and say, okay, what is it that education can do for you? What can it do for your organization? How can we make a difference? And get something. Don't leave until you have something that you can hang your hat on, okay? Because I'll give you an example, the sales organization. I can develop, I can deliver all the training I want. But if I don't have a sales engine and a marketing engine to help me push it out, no one's going to come, right? Build it, and no one will come. So I have to count on that sales organization to actually get out there and start, when they're talking to their customers about the product, to say, hey, can we throw in some training with that? You know, because training is important. This is why it's important. Do you know how hard it is to try and get a salesperson to do that? You know, there's a saying that salespeople are coin operated, right? They just, you gotta put some money in and they start operating, right? And so, so what I have to do is I have to really figure out how to compensate the sales organization. I have to keep asking them and demonstrating what's in it for you, right? So what's in it for them? One person tells 10. You know, they get references, right? The customer's going to come back and want to buy more product if they're fully satisfied and they know how to use the product. So you know, my mission is to get in front of those sales folks and to prove to them that education really has value. And don't give it away, let's sell it, okay? Because a lot of times training is just thrown in the deal. So that's about being profitable, right? So my job is to make sure that we sell education, sell the value, and make money for the corporation because it is important and it is valuable.